group is designed for any investors or any people that are wanting to be investors or learn about investing to come in and share their experiences and answer, getting questions answered that they might want to have answered. And so we're growing. We've had a little bit bigger attendance prior to this meeting. This meeting kind of got offset with a few things out there in the world that are kind of a little bit sideways right now, but away we go. So I want to introduce my team real quick. Myself, Kevin Romines, I'm a lender. I've been in the mortgage business for 25 years, and I provide financing for everything from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, USDA, all the government products. We were doing what's called non-QM up to a couple months ago. So I cover everything from all the conventional loans to hard money to commercial, you name it, we generally have a program for it. So that's kind of my deal. My daughter Caitlin is my marketing director, and so she keeps me busy with regards to Facebook and Meetup and various other places. Serena's been with me for the longest. She's coming up on her 1-year anniversary, and she originally was handling all the loan conditions as they would come in, and then she moved to what we call front end setup. So she's now setting up the loans as opposed to chasing down the conditions. Terrell's not with us today. Terrell got activated through the Guard, and he's going to be tied up with that for a bit. He is my what I call my doc dog. So he chases down all the documents for the individual borrowers as we're going through the loan process. So that's my group, and the main point of us meeting together is so that we can all share our knowledge and our experiences and become better investors because of it. So I've pretty much introduced the team. Marquise, do you want to give us a bit more about you and tell us what you're hoping to do and what you're out there doing right now?
Hey, my name again is Micheal Steadman. I'm originally from Virginia. I stay in Vancouver, Washington now. And I've been here for 2 years. I have a 1-year-old child. He's going to be 2 in November. Again, the business, that I have is called Eureka Images. And like I said earlier, basically what we do is virtual tours for real estate companies and small businesses. My plan for Eureka Images is to spread across the country. I really want to help as many people as possible because I understand how this pandemic that we're going through right now is really affecting a lot of people. And I know that once the pandemic's over, not a lot of people are going to want to go to open houses. Yes, that's where I come in. We do a little bit of everything. We do interactive tours, non-interactive tours, animation tours. We also do aerial views for rental properties. We had just started about like 3 months ago, so we're still brand new into the business world, but I'm really looking forward into working with you guys and getting to know you guys a lot more. I'm really thankful to be able to sit down with you guys, and I'm really looking forward to see what you guys have to offer.
Fantastic. Honestly, I think you nailed it. I think you are correct in that a lot of people are going to be very reluctant to want to do certain kind of tours that they would have done in the past. So the virtual tour, to me, seems like it's going to be something that's going to be utilized a lot more going into the future. So my hope is that your business takes off greatly, and that this group should be able to help propel that for you a bit as well. So thank you and welcome. I see Timothy Wills is on there. Hey, Timothy, do you want to introduce yourself and let us know what kind of investing that you're thinking about doing or that you're doing, and just give us a little bit of background on yourself.
All right. My name's Timothy Willis, and I'm out in the Shelton area. I own an automotive shop, working on cars and trucks and stuff. And my friend Dennis Hamlin, I took him down when I went down to Vegas and stuff. I joined Fortune Builders, and so I was really it's something I wanted to do in the real estate and invest in properties and flip a few, stuff like that. And so I still got a couple years left in Fortune Builders to have all of the stuff that I need to do. But I've been focused on my automotive shop, trying to get it all taken care of so I can have some more time to be able to focus on investing in some homes and stuff, and creating a good retirement for myself and my family. So,
Oh yeah.
There's a whole bunch more I can share with, but I'm kind of a loss for words right at the moment. But my buddy Dennis Hamlin is the one. He's my brother.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, are you thinking doing a BRRRR model? Are you familiar with that? Where you're going to buy, rent, rehab, and refinance and repeat, that kind of thing. So where you're going to hold it, or are you thinking about flipping?
Either or, whatever is the best way to do it. I mean, flipping it or wholesaling or whatever.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure yet. I know the market is open in my area here, and there's places all over the place, and I got a big clientele in my automotive shop, so I've been passing out my pens and stuff like that with my new business name is Sail Away Property Group. I've had it for a couple years now, but I haven't done anything with it yet, though. I'm all registered in Nevada and Washington, and got a few credit cards, stuff like that, for my business. But I just haven't had the time to do it. My wife passed away in 18, in March
Oh
and
man.
stuff. So I've had a few hits here and there, and but it's just time management. I started to do that, with a coach helping me out, but then I decided to go back to what I know, and so I just need to be more schooling for myself, and with health issues and this and that, so on and so forth. It sounds like a lot of excuses, but I'm ready to get into it and do it now, a little bit more. So flipping and wholesaling and getting a few rentals under so I can, have some, I own some property and stuff like that too already. So I was thinking about building a house on the property and or put a bunch of storage buildings there, and then the
There you go.
house in the back. So yeah, there's
Storage can be very lucrative. So
yeah,
and it's I don't want to say it's passive. It's not really passive because you still have to work it, but it's pretty passive when in terms of the level of work that you have to put into it. You can make it fairly. You can almost automate the whole thing if you needed to. But so storage units are a highly coveted thing in the real estate investment industry, if you will. So not a bad way to move. So. Well, welcome, and thank you. Kevin Van Egdom, do you want to give us a rundown of who you are, what you do, and what you're hoping to do?
All right.
All right, there you
go. So I'm Kevin Van Egdom. I'm an insurance agent with Allstate. My office is in Longview. Just looking to network and hopefully answer any insurance-related questions you guys might have, whether it be home, auto, life, umbrella, commercial. We can do it all. So yeah, just here to be a resource. If you have any questions, please reach out to me.
Definitely. Kevin and I have known each other. We started, I took a hiatus from the mortgage industry for about 5 years, and I was an insurance agent for initially Country Financial, and then I went and was an agent for Farmers, and then eventually Kevin moved over to Allstate as well. So we've been good buddies. We were still threatening to have a race. I don't know these days if he could actually pull it off and get the win, but
I think I can.
you think you can pull that race
Yeah.
off, huh? Okay, I don't know. My legs are pretty springy. I can still get it.
Put your running shoes on.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Hey, Rick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Rick Villamil, real estate investor and slinger of frozen yogurt and entrepreneur extraordinaire. Okay, well, entrepreneur anyway.
There you go.
Yeah. So we've been doing the real estate investment stuff for a little while now, and not a long time. This is actually, Kevin helped me understand, this is actually our third investment that we're getting ready to close on right now. He just told me that docs are ready to send a title. So, woohoo! And so, by the way, Tim, welcome. Dennis and I are working on a property right now in Hoquiam together. I've known Dennis for quite a number of years as well. But anyway, yeah, we've been getting into this real estate investment stuff. It's for my wife and I. We were looking at it as, well, we're getting close to retirement. We're not there yet, but we're getting close. And the retirement that I'm getting from my 9-to-5 job just isn't going to cut it. 80% at best when I walk out the door. And, it's like, wait a minute, I've grown too accustomed to this income. So it's like, I don't want to take a pay cut just to walk out the door. So we're looking at what we can do, and I've never really considered our frozen yogurt shop as part of that portfolio because you never know what can happen. So I haven't been counting on it. So if something comes of it and provides us with some extra capital, woohoo! But we got to make it through COVID first because that's
security, right?
my business. What's that?
I said like Social Security, right?
Yeah.
Social insecurity. So, my wife and I we were looking at, well, what can we do? We know we needed to expand, and we were going, well, do we expand the frozen yogurt business by opening up another location, or do we buy out the franchise office because it's a really small franchise, or what should we do? And we kept coming back to real estate and figured that was the best course of action for us. So we spent 6 or 8 months studying what is it that we're going to do. And, we finally picked a strategy, and we are now executing on that strategy. And Kevin and his team have been very instrumental in helping us do that.
Yeah, love to help anytime. Just out of curiosity, what do you think your cash flows are going to look like on the properties?
So the first one that we bought, it's on Bay Avenue in Hoquiam. The Bay Avenue property, we initially looked at it and figured that we were going to get about a $500 a month cash flow. But as we're looking at the second property, I'm doing my analysis on figuring out what the cash flow is on the new property. And a rentometer came back and told me that, hey, you're looking at a higher rent than you originally anticipated. So that should probably bump that up to about $650 a month.
Oh, that's a good cash
And
flow.
that's, and of course, that's after set aside for CapEx, OpEx, and property management. The second property that we're just getting ready to close on, we're looking at that one, and that one should also be right around in the $450 to $500 a month range.
You're talking 1,000 plus a month cash flow off of 2 properties in, at this point, about 6 months.
Yeah.
So if you were
Good.
employed and you went into your boss and you said, "Hey, can I get $1,000 a month raise?" What do you think the likelihood of that would be?
Right. My employer is the governor. Wait a minute, the Chief Justice.
The answer is no.
Well, you could do it through real estate, so that's perfect. Good job, Rick. Hey, Serena, do you want to unmute and tell? Oh, now Siri thinks I'm talking to her. Anyway.
All right, so I am teacher by day and loan assistant at night or by evening. I've been working with Kevin, like you said, for almost a year now, and I help set up the loans, help find conditions from clients, and I have banking background. I have almost 15 years of banking background knowledge. That's really helped me with this job, and I just look forward to learning a lot more about the mortgage industry and what it has to offer for everybody.
Yeah, you've been invaluable to me. I remember, it's kind of a funny story. One of the first times that we were having conversations, and I mentioned to her that, I need to structure this loan. And she says, "What?" She goes, "That's illegal." And I had to explain to her, banking, teller banking, if you're talking about structuring, that is illegal. But mortgage, you can't put a mortgage together without structuring it, meaning that you've got to move the pieces of the puzzle around to make it work for you. And so it was kind of a funny conversation. And to this day, we still kind of laugh about that because she's right. On the teller side of things, on the banking side of things, structuring is a very bad thing. But on the mortgage side of things, that's how things work. So, well, great. Thank you, Serena. And Caitlin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I am Kevin's LOA, his personal assistant, and his marketing team, all wrapped up in one. I did not know how to do this like 6 months ago, so I just took what I knew from Facebook and what I'd seen from other big businesses and compared businesses and applied it to his. It's been interesting. I've learned to create all my content and make things look pretty for him and keep him organized on track. I also am Rick's marketing. What did you call me the other day? A marketing director?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. So I make all his social posts for Limeberry and Lacey. That's a very interesting adventure, especially in the middle of COVID. So we have to be kind of particular about what we make, and it's fun. I've learned a lot, and even though I don't deal with loans directly, I've learned so much just of like how loans work. So if I ever have to do something like that, it'd be a lot easier. So I've enjoyed that a lot.
So when are we going to get you to start investing?
That's not a bad idea, actually, because I don't want to stay in this house. So
Start off with a house hack.
Be careful, Rick. She might hit me up for a raise.
So about that $1,000 raise.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Earn it.
Yeah. All right, and our guest speaker, Mr. Micheal Steadman, and I believe everybody has possibly seen the lives that I've done, and I hope to give you and do you justice by elaborating a little bit about you and your family business. But rather than me, please take it away.
Okay. Well, I'm Micheal Steadman. I'm the CEO and venture called Steadman. It's a family trust, but we go by Steadman Properties locally. We've been here locally in the South Puget Sound area since 1988. My uncle before that. He used to be the president of Tacoma Community College, and he retired from that and got into his in property investments full time, and as well as my father when he retired. But we're essentially a lot of our properties you might recognize are Tacoma Screw on Martin Way. We used to own the 3700 building on Martin Way, Audrey's Element of Style. We have a West Side property where the Cooper Point Public House is, but it used to be Taco Time, and it used to be I'm drawing a blank on that. But anyways, there's a Baskin Robbins there. It's on Harrison and Cooper Point. It's a West Park Owners Association, which I'm the president of also. You might recognize my name, maybe, and you're either going to like it or you're going to hate it, but I'm also a local politician. I'm a city council member in Lacey. I was a planning commissioner before that. I'm on countless boards and commissions, and it's really to look out after local businesses. I don't care if they're small or big. Smaller the better, if you ask me. But it's directly directly responsible for the quality of life we all share locally. Our families, our parks, everything we have is what business pays for. The residential, it essentially breaks even. So I wanted to make sure that my platform reflected that, and that I protected and try to represent businesses at political level. So, so long story about my family is we're all a long line of working class families. We dated it back to Belarus, Russia, by way of Germany. Princess went to marry Russian Tsar. She was also became known as Catherine the Great, and great grandparents lived there, metal workers and stuff like that. They had a little bit of falling out, went back to Germany. Some of my dad's side of the family from England, but they're all working class, plumbers, and I mean, from making it across the puddle to America and in Europe and New York, they basically hopscotched between Canada and the upper United States until they landed in Deer Park, Washington, and in a little town north of Spokane, about 20 miles, and American Falls, Idaho. My parents met in Spokane there when she was a nurse, and my dad was working in the mills after he got out of the Army. Poor guy had 3 sons and 3 daughters. All 3 of his sons Marines. That's me right there. That's my twin brother Matt right there, and my older brother James. And then my twin brother's sons are both Marines, and they're active duty right now. But long story short, we're all, from 200 years ago until today, we worked with our hands, and we learned valuable skills that other people didn't know or weren't willing to do themselves. And fast forward to modern day, as a kid, my dad winded up taking a job. He was working at the mills, and he winded up taking a job for Lockheed as a wireman and wiring missiles and satellites and stuff for them, and eventually got in the sheet metal trade and learned air conditioning. All valuable skills that this industry, HVAC industries, use a lot in pretty much everything. And my older brother became a plumber. I was a sheet metal worker. My twin brother was kind of a black sheep. He became a police officer, and he's over in Yakima area. But we grew up, my dad was very disciplined, saved a lot of his money, and he would buy these rundown pieces of garbage at the time, but they're in a town called Sunnyvale, California. And because he lived in the Bay Area, and it was all military housing, kind of falling apart, dilapidated. And we would go in and we'd do everything. We'd rip off the tar and gravel roofs, and we'd put composition roofs on them. We'd change the carpet, do the locks, paint it inside and out, redo the windows, the siding, the whole bit. And that's what we did every weekend that I remember when all my friends were out having fun. And it's like flipping, it's except we never flipped them, we kept them. And we called it the eagle syndrome, because once we got our talons into something, we never let go of it. And so by the time we graduated from high school and stuff like that, my mom and dad's family all from Idaho and Washington. My dad's dream was to move back to Washington when he retired. He retired from the sheet metal trade. The same year we graduated from high school, we moved up here, sold all the houses. He had 20-something of them. And it was pretty awesome as a kid to watch. I mean, it wasn't all, good times because we worked our butts off, but we watched our dad buy one house with one tax return, and then 2 years later, when it gained in value, he loaned against that house and he bought two more. So then we got twice as busy. And then 2 more years later, with his tax return and leveraging these houses that went up in value, he bought from 4 houses, he went to 8, and 8 houses, he went to 16. And we ended up having, I think, 24 houses altogether. And when we were seniors in high school, my older brother is 8 years older than us, so he was in the Marine Corps for a while, and he was, in and out of the picture. But we moved up here in my dad in 1988. We moved here in 1989, and we bought the first building was the West Side building, which has the Baskin Robbins, and it had a coin shop, and it's on Harrison and Cooper Point. And the next building we bought was a 3700 building with Audrey's Element of Style, and it had the horse racing commission in there and some other ones. And then in 1990, we went partnership with my uncle, and we built the 6700 building on Martin Way. And that's the first anchor tenants were Tacoma Screw, Crown Signs, Preservative Paints, bunch of them, but and some of them still with us today. And and Tacoma Screw, that was just a family just like ours, a father just like my father, and his son's now running the place, and it was their second store of ours, and now they're in Oregon and Idaho and Washington. I think they have almost 100 stores now. And that's was my dad's vision, was he had a dream that he could lease to people, families just like ours, and they could turn one small business into a business of 100 businesses or 100 locations, and and be with the big fish, swim with the big fish, you used to always say, and so I came up. He got sick and almost passed away in 2005, and I came up here to take over the business. And so then the recession hit. But when I took over, as we're pretty disciplined with our money at the time. And so with the recessions come opportunity, and I think this is very important, especially for investment groups, is if you're positioned well, my dad used to say it was like the Kennedys in the 20s, and when the recession hit, you can buy things at good values. And so we're positioned good to where when the recession hit in 2007, 2008, we could buy properties at a discounted rate. And so we developed 4 buildings, so 2 buildings over at the Lacey Corporate Center, and the Nearing Total Health, Easy Foods Olympia, what's the other one? Olympia Radiology, and there's a couple others there. And we heck, I forgot when we moved up here as teenagers, me and my twin brother saved $10,000 working in high school, and we bought a house on College Street, 2405 College, and it was like $22,000, and we put $10,000 down. We had a $12,000 loan, and we thought that was a big investment, right? And our house payment was $225 a month, and we made $600 a month. Fast forward, when I moved up here in 2005, we moved into that house while our house was getting built in Hawks Prairie, and then fixed it up some more, and then sold it for $180,000. So, it took 20 years to do, but it was a relatively good investment. And when we sold that, and we bought that property in Lacey Corporate Center, and we bought it a week before Lowe's announced that they were going to move in. And so that 160,000 turned into 400 something thousand. It's down a little bit, but that's the thing about investment in real estate. It's not going away. No one's building more land, and only the volcanoes are doing that, and it takes thousands of years just to get a few feet. So yeah, it's been a pretty good ride. It's never not a bad investment, because even when it's short term, it'll always come back if you take care of the stuff you're doing, and you're doing it right, and you're being disciplined, and you get the right tenants in there. It's same with renters, then you're by far money ahead.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
So
That's basically it.
Are you guys concentrating more on residential or commercial these days? Which side of that fence do you guys focus on?
Well, we look for opportunities. It's and we're slowly getting back into the housing thing. And it started with my dad wanted a warmer climate as he got older. He just recently passed away, but we had first bought a place in the Villages during the recession also. So they had these $400,000 houses, and when the recession hit, you'd come up fully loaded, furnished and everything for $120,000.
Wow.
And it's like, well, that's, yeah. And
the Villages, where's that located?
It's central Florida, between a little bit north and west of Orlando, halfway between Tampa Bay. It's a huge retirement community. It's like 40 square miles, and it's got like 44 different villages in it. Each one's got a different theme. One's like a Western theme. One's like an Italian village in Europe, in Italy. And there's 40 of them, and they're all like Arnold Palmer class golf courses. Each one has one. Some have two, and they all have rec centers, and they're all this like a little village inside this giant, basically, development or the city. And it's all, everything you need is there. So, and it's pretty nice. It's almost like the Del Webb things down in Arizona, which, my dad didn't want to travel as far, Florida back and forth. He's getting a little spoiled in his older age, and so he was looked on some opportunities down in the Sun Cities, and so Sun City West, same thing, except those were even cheaper. You get $200,000, $300,000 house for $70,000 and loaded. It's houses furnished and everything, and then they're retirement centers, and they're pretty nice. And same thing, they got rec centers, and they got everything you need there, and you can drive around in a golf cart and live out your days in a nice, warm climate. And it's not like 5-star, but it's nice,
Yeah. Fantastic.
And so we've been slowly getting, yeah. And so one turns into, oh, hey, here's another opportunity. Oh, here's another opportunity. Pretty soon we have 5 houses in Sun City West. Yeah, they're nice. I mean, they got pickleball courts and you name it, and they're really close to Surprise, Arizona, and not too far away from Phoenix. But we're slowly getting back into the housing market, which we couldn't wait to get out of the housing market. It was all about commercial And really the only difference is I tell people it's you just put another zero in the dollar sign, you know, instead of $1,000, you're talking, it's 10,000 in the commercial business. That's really all the only difference. It's bigger risk, it's bigger reward, I guess. You know, and it's really as simple as a house in Hoquiam, you know, and you buy it and you're going to make $650 when you thought you're going to make 400. And it's not going to always be rosy, because some months it's going to be empty. Some months, you know, it's never going anywhere as long as you take care of it, you know, and you treat your tenants right. They get vested in you. You get vested in them. You take care of each other. We all got to make money. We all got to have a place to live. And as long as everybody understands that, you know, you don't have to make all your money on one person at one time, but you can make it a fair amount, and where everybody wins, you know. And if we can, you know, curb government and the needs and all that, which, you know, I tell people too, it's, you know, taxes are high here, but we have a lot of services other places don't, you know. And anyone that's been in the military has been to places like, you know, Barstow or Camp Polk or whatever, Louisiana, you know, and you can tell though when you're in an area that's not really taxed too high, because there's not really a whole lot of services or things to do. So, you know, your quality of life suffers. So
Yeah.
it's, but oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, if you were going to give some advice to somebody who was just going to start on the investing side of things, what advice would you give on that?
Well, I would say if you're just starting, you know, it's always good to be, you know, the closer the better. My dad's very first house that he invested in was our next door to our house, and I always thought it was kind of weird. You know, why is Dad so friendly with the next door neighbor? Well, everybody was friendly back then, but it was a rental. I had no idea. I was just, you know, 6 years old, and but you know, he was very careful on who he rented to. He even got background checks back then, but he made sure they understood that he was there for them, but they needed to be there for him too. And he didn't charge top dollar, but it wasn't, you know, bottom of the barrel either. So I would say it's less about location nowadays, because, you know, with Google and everything else, that really doesn't matter. But, you know, if you have the means and you can invest in places like Hoquiam, there's a lot of opportunity there. There really is. But if, you know, if you're depending on that money, the closer the better, because we have major issues. We always took care of the problems ourselves until we got so big, it's, you know, and older to where our knees don't work as good and all that stuff. Now we have to hire it out, you know, almost everything now. And but if you're first starting out, if you have people that can do the work, that's probably the best thing you can do, because no one's going to take care of you like you know. And when it's your business and your family and all the people that you care about, you're going to really take care of that. You're going to be, you know, you pay attention to everything you do. And a lot of it's just pride, you know, and people start believing in you, you know, and they start rooting for you, and they start recognizing and seeing what you're doing. They want to do the same thing, you know. A couple of our renters and companies have done the same thing. Now they own their own buildings. It's like Sears and Kmart and all those, you know, they lasted so long because they own their buildings. If they didn't own their buildings, they would have been gone a long time ago. But business changed to, that's not our expertise. Our expertise is, you know, tires. So we're going to do tires or something else. But even if the building is not always there, the land is always there. And you want it as close to services as possible.
Well, you do know that McDonald's is actually in the real estate business. It's not in the hamburger business.
Yep.
And so
it's funny that you're talking about this, and I'm sorry I had to disappear for a second there. Contractor calling me. But yeah, I'm looking at our frozen yogurt business, and it's like that one expense is my biggest expense. And it's like, it would be a whole lot better if I just owned the darn building. I could save so much money in my operating expenses.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about it. My gosh.
Yeah. So my big thing that I was trying to do for a while, but life gets in the way. The dad got a divorce late in life, and COVID, you name it. But my big thing is we own buildings, and if my kids or family members could learn how to, I was a manager, oddly enough, in a assistant manager in high school at a Baskin Robbins, and now I own a building with a Baskin Robbins in it, and I'm telling my kids, do you want to work? You can work through school by owning one of these businesses if some of these people decide that they're going to sell, but you would have to know how to not just scoop ice cream, but you got to know how to hire the right people. You got to know how to do their the income and FICA and all that stuff. Order the ice cream, keep the stocks and all that stuff. Keep it well stocked. And so oddly enough, the Bass Robbins is probably going to be in the next few years retiring. So my son's working there and seeing if that might be something he'd be interested in, and we already know the owners. And that's my big thing is like, we can own businesses in buildings that we own. And why not? Right.
Oh, yeah.
That could just be another facet of the business, because no one's going to run a business in a building that they own better than somebody else. Cause you're doubly invested. So,
Oh, yeah. Hey, real quick, I see that Brendan's online with us. Brendan, do you want to unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're hoping to do?
Hey, it's Jessica Arney.
Oh, Jessica. How come it says Brendan?
Because it's my son's tablet.
Oh, okay. You fooled us.
Yes,
I knew it was you, but I had to mess with you a little bit.
Oh, geez.
So have you thought about jumping in on the investing side of things?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean,
I'll have to work on you a little bit about that. Jessica is one of my longtime clients, and matter of fact, we're wrapping up a deal right now. But I got to get her interested in the real estate investment side of things.
I think I'm interested. I think that just like my situation right now with my husband and my 3 boys, it's like, when you daydream, you do think about like, oh, maybe when Justin retires from Pepsi at 55 or whatever, or when he
Right.
can, then, it would be nice that he wouldn't have to work the blue collar thing anymore, so.
Yeah. Just kind of padding that retirement. I think that from that standpoint, that's one of the things that Rick had mentioned to me. And it sounds like the same thing for Tim. And even myself, I had some properties that I ended up selling off a couple of years ago. And I was able to, it was just the craziest thing. I was able to get it under contract for $1. And I turned the $1 into $40,000 over 4 years. And to me, that was a great investment. And that was the last one I had. And my wife mentioned to me, well, when are we going to get back into it? And I said, well, I was so darn busy on the loan side of things that, I just need more time. But honestly, I need to get back into it. I need to deploy some cash that way and buy the investments, because if I buy the investments, that will be my retirement. So.
Hey, I happen to know somebody that's pretty good at finding properties that cash flow fairly well.
Yeah, it sounds like I know a few of those guys. So Kevin Van Egdom, you thinking about doing a little something anytime soon?
I got to build my own house first, so maybe after that.
Oh, that's I remember talking to you a little bit about that. Are you getting closer to pulling the trigger and making that happen?
Dude,
Well, I got to get my wife back to work first, and she's an airline flight attendant, so that's going to hold up some financing, I think. But once that finally gets going, we're getting there. Finally got an address assigned to the property and working on with the PUD to get the power.
So you've got the lot already?
Yeah, I got the lot, well, and septic's in, working on power now.
So you're gonna be an even closer neighbor to me or farther away?
About the same.
Ah, okay. Well, you're just gonna have to let me know where you're at so I can come harass you.
Will do.
Yeah, we still gotta get that race in. Oh, I tell you, some of the hurdles that I see for people just kind of starting out is financing or the down payment, if you will. And there's a lot of different ways to get your down payment. There's a lot of different loan programs. And so what I hope that people don't do is fall in that analysis paralysis. So they got to analyze it to death and they never actually take the steps. If they take the steps, sometimes it's some people are kind of fearful. They don't know, okay, I don't know if I want to pull the trigger on this. What if this happens? What if this happens? And honestly, you kind of got to go through it and you got to learn as you go. There's going to be things that crop up that you didn't see. There's going to be things that crop up that, oh, okay, now I got to go take care of this, or I got to throw money at this.
That's a great point, Kevin. You know, when I bought my house and when I got out of the Marine Corps, my VA loan maxed out at $203,000, and you know, I was making, I don't know, 20 something bucks an hour, and I was like, oh man, you know, 1,600 and something bucks a month, man,
Yeah.
Best decision I ever made. A mile from the nuclear lab in Livermore, and
Holy cow.
I sold that thing for $560,000 and bought my house for cash when we moved up here to take over the family business. So I didn't have the hanging over my head of a mortgage payment if taking over the family business didn't work out. You know, I could work at McDonald's, that real estate company, if I had to, and make ends meet, because now that risk went away. You know, and so it was a leap of faith, though. You know, it's back then, you know, 1996, something like that, and wow, I was like, wow, almost $1,700 a month every month.
Yeah.
Short months like February, woo. But yeah, it's a leap of faith, and it's hard for a year, but then you get that tax return, you know, from and now you have a huge tax write-off to shelter your income, you know. And
Right.
so you're disciplined enough, and you get that, you know, $10,000 check or whatever, even $5,000. You know, I remember getting checks $15,000 from IRS, and now I would go and buy another property, you know, and that's literally how my dad did it, you know, for 20 years, and it turned out he had 24 houses at the end of it and bought commercial buildings, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
just a simple. But he said other people buy boats and motorcycles and RVs, and I buy houses. That's what he used to say.
Well, the nice thing too is you've got people and you've got tenants in there, they're paying the mortgage on it. When I sit down and I look at tax returns and I have to analyze them for the incoming borrowers, if somebody had anywhere from 2 to 3 or more properties, virtually every time they're not paying any taxes on that income because they're writing off so much. Now they're making the income, so that income goes into their pocket or goes into their bank account or whatever, but they're not paying taxes on it because there's so many write-offs that it's basically becomes free income. So, and it just grows and grows. And the other thing that everybody worries about is their debt ratio. Well, they say, well, gosh, if I get to 6 or 7 or 8 properties, I'm going to have a problem with my debt ratio. And the reality of that is, if they're buying the property for the right number, that property will actually add to their income. It won't actually impact their debt ratio. It'll bring their debt ratio down. So you can literally buy by buying real estate.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it you're going to build your wealth through cash flow, but you're also going to build your wealth through appreciation. One statistic I heard not too long ago, and I was actually kind of shocked by this statistic, was that the 40-year average in the state of Washington for residential real estate is a 7% appreciation per year. So if you do the math on that, that means that property is doubling in value every 7 years. So
yeah,
that's huge.
Yep. That's what my dad used to say all the time too. If you're doing it right, every 7 to 7.5 years, you should double your money. So,
And then
so
you're
one of
doing
the
somebody else
things
paying
he
the bill.
did was, yeah. So one of the things he did too was he was a wage slave. He was a sheet metal worker, and so he would just get wages, but they would have a supplemental retirement, but it cost $4 extra an hour that came off your take-home pay, and so it cost him a couple $100 on his check every week, but he would get all that tax write-off benefit in his income tax. That was like 10 times more than that, plus all that money that went into your mutual fund for 20 years. And people go, oh man, I can't afford a $200 off my income every week. I'm like, how can you not? You can't not afford to not do that. You're going to make it up at the end of the year. So yeah, it's going to be hard for a year, but then you get the investment on top of that with the, mutual fund that money goes into. And that's just another way of how he got extra money that he could spend to invest. So he's investing his investment profits from, day one after the first year. And it's little things like that, but that's 7-year thing, doubling your money. So every time a grandkid was born, he would take $5,000 and he'd put it in a Roth IRA for grandkids, and not a penny more. The $5,000 the second they're born. And some of my nieces and nephews are, man, I think they're about 30 now. They're about 30 years old. Some of them have $80,000, $90,000 in there without another penny invested. But from the day they're born, it just sat there and grew. $5,000, $90,000, one-time investment, that's it. Bam. It doubles every 7 years, and that 5 turns to 10, and the 10 turns to 20, and the 20 turns to 40. And it's the same with the houses. It's so simple, and it really isn't that much. We think it's a lot initially, but there's so much benefits that we don't take into consideration and add to the equation of our risk. Now it's risky from the intern when you first do it, and it's risky because you need to make sure you keep your tenants and do all that stuff, do all the, run your business right. But that's through COVID. That's through, the early 90s, the recession. It's all the ups and downs the past, 35 years.
Oh, yeah.
And still averaged at least, at a minimum, 7%. So
7% is pretty powerful. I mean,
yeah.
When you actually put it on paper or you're looking at it, it's pretty.
But what about the years
amazing.
when you make 20%?
Yeah, you definitely have those years. The last 3 or 4 years, the state has averaged between 10 and 13% a year. So you start having, you got a 200, let's say you got a $300,000 house and you gain 13% for the year. Well, you just gained 342,000, or your value went from $300,000 to $342,000. $42,000 worth of increase that if you should decide to sell, or if you should decide to tap it as equity, it becomes a tool for you. And
it can be leverage to buy your next one. You know,
And it should be. And here's the reason. Somebody was talking to me, and they made a comment about somebody said that they had about $500,000 worth of equity in their home, and the other person asked them, "Well, what are you doing with that money? Is that equity making you any money?" And the answer was, "Well, no, I'm just saving it." And the other guy's
see, my
eyes
dad said,
by
money
saying,
always has to be working for you.
"Yeah, put your money to work for you. Let that money make
You
more
work
money."
hard, right? Your money should work hard for you too.
Right.
And you know, you have ups and downs, and sometimes, very, very seldom does it go sideways. But as long as you don't overextend yourself, it's the opportunity is there. You just need to have a little discipline. Is all.
Right. Hey, Kevin, I wanted to ask you real quick, because Michael brought up the fact that his dad used to put $5,000 once the baby was born. Wasn't there a life insurance policy that would do that same kind of thing? He kind of went away on the video, but hopefully he's still there.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Well, you can do a whole life policy. Basically does the same thing for a child. You know, the younger they are, the better investment it's going to be, and the less initial investment. But you know, you can do like a $10,000 or $20,000 whole life policy, and it'll build up, and you can always access that for college or whatever the cash value that you want to use that for.
And that gives them a life insurance policy right from the time that they're initially very young, and that life insurance policy grows and stays with them for their life. So at some point, that's going to be beneficial for their heirs. But in the meantime, they still have the cash value. Is that how that works?
Yeah, correct. So, you know, if you do a $50,000 life insurance policy, you know, it's going to be a final expense type thing. But the cash value that grows on that is a decent amount throughout the time.
Something like that might cost you, what would be an initial one-time payment on that?
It just depends. You can just do a paid up, you know, just do a one-time $10,000 investment type thing, or you can do a premium type thing, a monthly or yearly premium that you're putting into it. So it really depends what you're looking to do and use that for.
Okay. And I know that there are some investors that will take out a whole life insurance policy and they'll beef up the cash value right away. And then they turn around, they borrow the cash value to use it to invest. And then when they flip the house, they put the money back on the cash value, and their cash value continues to grow and grow and grow. And they use that as their nest egg for their down payments and their closing costs. And at that point, it also gives them a life insurance policy, you know, for their heirs when
What the hell is going on out here?
something goes sideways. So anyway, a lot of unique things out there. A lot of ways. The biggest thing I think is, you know, do enough of a analysis to figure out what you want to do. But the most important thing is take action. You've got to pull the trigger on something at some point, because if you don't ever pull the trigger, you're never really going to get started. Anybody got any questions or concerns about how things are done?
I'm trying to.
What was the last question? Sorry, I stepped away for a second.
I was just talking about how people just need to get past analysis paralysis and pull the trigger and just get into their first deal. Because I think once they're into their first deal, they'll get a good sense of what works, what doesn't, and then I think in some ways they'll kind of catch gold fever and realize, oh wait, I can do this over and over and over again, and I just need one pot of money.
I'm trying not to get too much of a gold fever, but yeah, I'm starting to see that once I finally pull the trigger. But yeah, we did the same thing. We kind of sat there and ran the numbers, and that doesn't work, and we ran the numbers, and that doesn't work, and we ran the numbers, and that didn't work. And wait a second, who says we have to invest right here? And so we started to venture out a little bit, and we started looking at the Chehalis area, Lewis County, and then and also over in Grace Harbor. And it's like, oh, there's all kinds of properties here that need to be fixed.
Oh yeah, if you honestly look at it, it's one of the better areas right now for investing. Mason County, where Tim is at, is also very good. The Shelton area. There's some deals that you can get in those areas. Lewis County is still somewhat good, and I've got one of my investors. He started in Grace Harbor County, and he was, he bought all of his properties on owner contract, and he had some smaller deals and he had some bigger deals. He's now at the point he's got like 15 doors, and he's got cash flow going very, very well, and he's doing phenomenal. So a lot of people in the groups look to him. I would have loved to have had him on tonight to talk a bit, but it's a great way to say that, okay, you can start. And it's kind of like Michael's story, where you're starting small. You're starting with properties that, he kind of said were maybe garbage a little bit, but that's where your opportunity's at, So
yeah. Hey, something, Kevin? I was going to show that video. I don't know if I.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
You got interested, but here's my father. It's basically was his brainchild. He's a good guy. He passed away in February, and he was all about local, and he was all about people and making your home, your play where you live, a home. So.
I'm Micheal Steadman. I'm Northeast Lacey, Washington. All three of my dad's. So me and my two brothers. I have a twin brother and an older brother, both United States Marines, and our dad was in the Prior Service Army. I was air delivery unit.
These are all our tenants.
Like my dad, and same with my older brother. He was a pipe fitter. I was a sheet metal worker. My dad was a refrigeration mechanic. We're a local family. We're veteran operated.
Except for Brian. We needed a fill, so Brian went in there. That's Linda with Crown Signs.
Families that are,
that's DK Hair Salon.
Veteran based. I took over for my dad.
That's Bass Robbins.
15 years ago. We were never a business per se. When we were younger, it was just a father and his three sons fixing up houses. And if you embrace local businesses, those local businesses are more apt to.
That's Sam at the Cooper Point Public House.
They do some economy locally. Pretty soon it's a ripple effect and it just goes out from there. People focus more on where they spend their dollars and why they spend their dollars there. I think that they too benefit and make.
That's South Puget Sound Salmon Enhancement. There was the Northwest Indian Fisheries Commission and all that. That's basically it. And it's really just a story of, working hard, investing right, and just taking care of your stuff, really, and every little thing you can leverage, like you lower your taxable income on every check because you're investing in, a retirement. All the little things add up, and those become, a lot of little things become something substantial that you can invest in every single month. And pretty soon you got, what's his name? I think it was Kevin said he was building his house, and, you got to have a castle before you have the kingdom, and everything out from there. And that's the thing is just, invest wisely, be smart, and have your money go to you as much as possible as compared to the government. If you do that, the government's not losing, the government's winning because you're creating jobs and other taxable incomes, and the people that make the less wise decisions, they'll be contributing more to the Uncle Sam than you. And so he used to say, Uncle Sam's is my investment partner. I got you kids and Uncle Sam because he's paid for half of it basically, and it used to start with every year when he got his tax return, that was his investment.
There's a great question in the chat box if somebody wants to address that to everybody.
Yeah, like me, like us or my dad, he had a bunch of houses And so he would invest in that supplemental and his other retirements, and he would get a lower paycheck because it cost him a couple $100 as compared to what he'd take home if he didn't do that. But that was all pre-tax. So that money was taken out, invested, and then he was taxed on it. Then he would get his paycheck, and it would be lower a little bit. But then at the end of the year, he would have more income, but it was less taxable. And then he had all the write-off, and then he would get a $10,000 check from the IRS at the end of the year, when his buddy would only get $3,000 or $4,000. And so then he had more money to leverage to invest and do it again and do it again and do it again. And it's really doing the little things or doing the big things. So if that makes sense. So my buddies used to say, I can't afford to take, a couple $100 off my paycheck. And, I got $3,200 instead of $3,400. And I'm like, you can't afford not to do it. And I'll show you why. You know what I mean? And some people got it and some people didn't. And they thought they were losing $200, but they're really making $600.
Hey, I just wanted to address the question that Marquise put in the chat. With regards to you saving a chunk of change to use for the down payment. So what I would tell you is an FHA loan, you can do that for as little as 3.5% down, and you can buy up to a 4-unit. So if you buy a 2 to 4 unit, you can live in one of the units as an owner-occupied unit, and then you've got the rentals for the other part of it. And typically, if you've got at least 3 to 4 units, at that point, you're collecting enough in rents that it's more than paying mortgage payment. And you've only got to live in, you're only required to live in it for 1 year. Anything after 1 year, you can rent the unit that you were in out, and then you can rinse and repeat and do it again.
Some say no one ever checks that.
I know.
1 year, but
I know that. But the other thing too is if you're a vet, so if you have your VA eligibility, you can use the VA loan, which is 100% financing, on up to a 1 to 4 unit as well. So both of those loans would be your best loans to look at when you're thinking about investing in a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. And that it's a great move. It's a great way to kind of quote unquote house hack and get other people to pay your mortgage for you. And then after a certain period of time, you're just going to go down the road to the next deal. And if you wanted to, at that point, do another FHA loan, you can only have one out at any one time unless there's a certain criteria that you met. But what you could do is, if you have the proper equity, you could refinance the first loan that was an FHA loan into a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan. And then that frees up your FHA loan again, so where you can do it owner occupied for another 3.5% down. So I know a number of people, and I've done a number of loans for people that do use that strategy. And it's a great way to get into rental properties that are technically owner occupied.
And that's a good point, because my dad used his VA home loan on his first investment property. And after he got 3 or 4 houses, he started taking those profits to pay off that loan. And once that got paid off, it freed up his VA again, and he did it all over again. And he would always target the VA house loan first, because he could always get that loan again. It was always guaranteed, and it was always 100%. So he paid that one off from all the other investments faster, and he just kept doing it. As soon as he could redo the VA thing again, he would do it. But he had to pay that house off first.
And believe it or not, you can actually have more than one VA loan out at the same time. Your eligibility has a certain amount of dollars in it. So if you did your first loan, you might not use up all your eligibility. So then you can still, still have the eligibility to go to the next house if you want to.
See, I used up my whole thing in one fell swoop, but it's gone. $203,000. I was stressed out, man. I was like, whoa. But I got that first tax return, and I was like, wow. Then it clicked, right? You think you understand Well, you understand more when checks start rolling in and you go, wow. And it didn't even take that long. A year is not that long, you know, and then you just do it again and do it again. And the hardest year is the first year.
Well,
Yeah, I need to figure out more tax strategies myself.
it sounds like you've got some, if you had some dollars that you need to strategize to minimize your tax, and because if you minimize your tax, you can potentially invest a bit more. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, rental properties will do that for you. So
Yeah, it's one of the best investments ever, you know.
So Michael, you talked about when you were early on, you and your brothers would go with your dad and work on the houses and get them fixed up, and that's kind of what we're doing. Other than we're kind of also dealing with contractors. And what are your thoughts on investors utilizing these contractors if the person has some level of skill to do the work themselves, but may not necessarily have the time?
Yeah, I mean, if you can do the work yourself, but you have to be good at it, that's the way to go. But you can't, in this day and age, you need a permit technically to replace a water heater, so it's a little more complicated nowadays, but at the same time, it's opportunity. If you don't know the skills, it's not hard to learn how to use them. I mean, I told people, it's like, if you don't know what you're doing, you're professional, a lawyer, whatever you want to get into doing stuff, go down Habitat Humanity. You can work on those projects. It helps someone build a house and learn how to do it proper way by professionals that are there helping the people building essentially their home they're going to live in. And so if you don't know, you can learn. It's not that hard. If people are willing, there's people out there that can show you even if you don't know how to do it. But doesn't mean you can't invest together with somebody that has that knowledge. A lot of people we do business with are electricians and plumbers. And when we need an electrician and a plumber, guess what? Yeah, there they are, because I have helped them in the past, and now they get a return to favor, and then they, like I said, then they go and they invest and they buy a house, and then pretty soon they have 3 houses, and then guess what? They got a small commercial building, and they go, it's not that hard. I'm like, I know, especially when you know what you're doing. You didn't always know what you were doing, but all you have to do is just pay attention and be willing to work a little bit. But it's like owning any other business. It's you're open 24/7, even if the doors are, lights are off and the doors are shut.
Don't I know that?
Yeah. But you're working for yourself, and you're working for the people that mean the most to you, and you're building a home, and not just a home for you. You're building a home for your community, and they get vested and they start taking pride in their community. They start taking pride in their friendships and the relationships they have, and pretty soon it's a utopia, everybody wins. And that's why, if where you live, you have to be a part of it, and you got to be, to me, intertwined with it. And that's a home. If not, what are we doing? We're just living in somewhere, we're just hanging our hat, but make it a home. Make it a home. People are going to invest in you, investing in you, and you're going to do the same thing with your neighbor, and that's what it's all about. And when other communities are suffering, you're suffering a little bit less because everybody is in it, so it's just a way of life. And it could have been where I grew up too. It was a little different back in the 70s and 80s, and we used to have block parties, and everybody's house was open. You just go from one barbecue to the next, and they close off the streets, and it was awesome. But you couldn't go a mile on the other side of town either without everybody knowing what you're doing and reporting back to your parents.
Hey, real quick, I kind of want to give a real quick case study, and I'm going to use Rick as an example. So the way that it worked was Rick wanted to get into investing. So what we did was we tapped into the equity on his home. He had a little bit of equity. I was able to give him some dollars with regards to that equity, and that started his nest egg. Then he bought the first home. He had XYZ as far as a down payment, and we put that together on what's called a hard money loan. For those that aren't familiar, hard money is more asset-based driven, meaning that they're not going to look so much at your credit report. They're not going to look at your income so much and things like that. They're really just all about, hey, is this a good deal or is it not? And the advantage of that is you can close a lot quicker on those kinds of loans. The disadvantage is the interest rate is a bit higher than your normal conventional loan. But it's designed to be a short-term loan. And when it's all said and done, because the key element to Rick's success is he's buying the properties for the right price. So he goes into the deal, and the first thing he's trying to figure out is, okay, if I buy this property, what is the ARV? The ARV, or after repair value, once you know that number, then you can back everything else out. So if you back everything else out, meaning you're going to back out your rehab costs, you're going to back out your original acquisition costs and everything else, and get down to a point you can determine what is the right price to buy that property for, and come out on the other side with the right amount of equity, the right amount of profit. So we were able to figure that out. He was able to nail down, okay, this is my top price that I could pay for this house. And so he made his offers accordingly. And then he's going through the rehab right now. He's going to complete the rehab. It sounds like he's going to be right on budget for the rehab, or pretty close. And when it's all said and done, we already pretty much know what it's going to be appraised for, because we pulled comps to see what that property would look like in terms of value once it's fully rehabbed. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to refinance him one more time. And when I refinance him one more time, he's going to get all the cash that he put into that deal back out of the deal through the cash out refinance that we're going to do. And so essentially, if we do it right, he basically gets to invest in the property. And when it's all said and done, and he gets to the refinance portion of it, he has no more money left in that property. He's got all of his money back. Now that he's got all of his money back, that allows him to then go to the next deal, and to the next deal, and to the next deal. You only have to have one set of down payment to buy as many properties as you ever could want to buy. Just one set of down payment. That's the key to making this thing work and be repeatable and buy your wealth. So how'd I do,
Thank
Rick?
you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all a matter of just understanding what the concepts are and putting
My
them all
dad
into
used
play.
to say, playing with house money.
Yeah, in a roundabout way.
Well, and to take that a step further, so on my second deal, I still, because we did hard money to buy the first house, I didn't use everything that I pulled out from my first refi. So I still had a fairly sizable pot of money yet. Is still in my possession. But so what I did though is I took that and I took on a partner, and we bought a second property, which we're going to be closing next week.
Yeah.
And we're doing the exact same process, so that when it's done, I'm still going to get all of my money back from my first deal. I'll get all of my money back from my second deal, and I'll have about $1,000 positive cash flow out of it.
Yeah,
I mean, get to
creates
do it all
$1,000.
over again.
creates $1,000 in cash flow within a 6-month period, and he still has his same pot of money that we started with.
Yeah. And you keep a little bit of it every month to take care of when, you know, if you have a tenant that is, you know, transition period between tenants, or you need to paint the house, or you need to do whatever. It's, you know, it's like a 20/80, sometimes 70/30, you know, and that's usually the amount that you can barely take care of and keep the place nice. So.
Hey,
Yeah,
Rick, how long
the kind of cash flow I'm talking about, that's after setting aside money for CapEx, set aside for OpEx, set aside for vacancy, and set aside for property management.
See, and that's even a better investment if you already taken in those considerations. Because I remember you saying that at the beginning of the meeting. Yeah, that's the right way to.
Yeah, we're setting aside 28% for those items.
And that's
70/30. And when you get it enough, it could be 20/80, and you still are doing it right. You know, if you take care of it. You know.
Hey, Rick, how long did that second loan take to get to the point of drawing docs?
Oh, man. So, yeah, this he took me by surprise. So when we put in the offer on there, you know, we said, well, you know, we're going to close pretty quickly. We're going to say the 17th of June. What we put the offer in on the 28th of May, and it's like, okay, you know, we thought that's pretty aggressive, but okay, we'll get this done. Kevin called me today and told me, docs are going to title, and you can probably close tomorrow. So what's that? 10 days, 11 days?
Yeah, 10, 11 days. It goes fast when you get to the second and the third and the fourth deal. You can close them pretty quickly.
And he told me that my next deal, because I'll have 3 under my belt by that time, my interest rates go down.
Yeah, a lot more competitive on the interest rates at that point. And
Kevin, the other thing too is my dad was not that technical. You know, he was, you know, not as scientific as what you guys got going on here. You know what I mean? So that can even leverage, you know, less time in, which equals more money, you know, because he just did it, you know, backyard style. It's just like, it made sense to him. So that's what he did. And he didn't, you know, it wasn't breaking out a calculator and saying, okay, do this and that, and we can use all this different fancy financing. It was, I make this much, I can save this much, and I'm just going to do it. And when it feels right, I'll do it again. You know what I mean?
Well, in the industry, on the mortgage side of things has matured. Like 35 years ago, some of these products weren't available, or they weren't as prevalent in the market as they are
readily
today.
available.
Yeah. So a person today with the right guidance, they can invest very quickly. And, you know, so that's just kind of a good case study is, you know, Rick and I were talking about, okay, this is what he wanted to do. Okay, I had to get him that first pot of cash, and got him that first pot of cash, and away he goes. The next thing you know, he's buying a property. I'm like, holy cow, he's already buying a property. And next thing you know, he's talking about a second property.
No paralysis here.
Yeah.
You know, Marquise wrote something about a foreclosure, pre-foreclosure. That's another opportunity too. If you have you know, politics and investment are, you know, have in common is relationships. Get to know your bank, your lenders, and everybody, you know, your real estate agent, all that. You can find out really good deals, you know, because banks are in the business of lending and banking, not in the business of wanting to take your property or somebody that didn't, and you know.
Oh yeah. They're not interested in holding your property. They're interested in just getting their monthly payments. Well, I think we've kind of hit a spot that seems about right. Any other questions that anybody's got? Okay, so
I want to make sure his question is answered. It's what is the difference between a foreclosure and a pre-foreclosure?
what's the difference between a foreclosure and a pre-foreclosure?
Yeah.
Okay, so a foreclosure means that it's already went through the process. It's foreclosed. The bank took it back, or they sold it at auction to whoever the highest bidder was. That's a foreclosure. A pre-foreclosure is that they've defaulted on the loan, and most mortgage companies will not file the paperwork for somebody to put somebody into foreclosure until they're 90 days past due. So they have to be 90 days past due, and then they start filing foreclosure paperwork. Once they file the foreclosure paperwork, they cannot foreclose on the property for 90 days from the date that they initially filed the paperwork. So anybody that's in that window of time, they've already defaulted, they're 90 days past due, and they've gotten the notice of intent to foreclose on that property from their lender, they're in what's known as pre-foreclosure. Pre-foreclosures, you can get some good deals. The only thing I would caution anybody about is Washington State changed their laws on the pre-foreclosures. I can't remember how. I think it was right around 2008, 2009. Because of everybody was going into foreclosure back then, there was some people that were taking advantage of those people that were in foreclosure. So they changed their laws, and now in the state of Washington, if you don't do it correctly, you can actually go to jail. So you've got to be very, very, very careful with pre-foreclosures in the state of Washington. Other states, it's still wide open, but Washington, boy, they'll hit you hard if you don't do it right. So, but if you're just basically going to buy the property, as long as you're buying the property within a certain percentage of what the true market value of that property is, then you're fine. But if you're buying that property for a huge discount, they're going to deem that you took advantage of that person, and now you're in trouble. Now you can be fined heavily, and you can also be put in jail. So I don't recommend it. It's not for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Did you answer the question?
Marquise, did we get all of your questions answered?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Good. How about you, Tim?
Yes, sir. I mean, there's a lot of good information, and I've it's bringing back what I got stored in my memory banks. Hearing everything. After repair value and all that stuff, and then you're talking about that other stuff about that 90-day thing and people being vultures. That's what that law is all about. And you got to be careful. And yeah, there's lots of good stuff. Yeah, it answered a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting back on here again and meeting you guys face to face, and because this is what I want to do. I want to turn the page.
There you go.
I've been stuck in a little bit of a grief process for a little while, so I'm need to turn the page a little bit. So I'm getting ready to get up and go with what I wanted to do to begin with.
I'm going to say, that's awesome, Tim. It's, I know Dennis has talked to me about you numerous times, and it'd be good to see, from what he's telling me, it'd be good to just, see you go ahead and pull that trigger, because I think I know for me, it gives me something else to do, Not that I don't already have enough to do, with a full-time job plus running a business, and now a second business with this real estate investment. But it keep idle hands is the devil's playground, and so my hands are not idle. I don't have time to be idle, and it's going to help me out down the road when I am ready to retire. By giving me the allowing me to continue the lifestyle that I've become accustomed to, and B, it will keep me busy doing things, because me being idle is not a good thing, and my wife would be more than happy to tell you that.
Oh, I agree.
So what's that, Caitlin?
I don't think you know what idle is at this point.
Isn't that an American?
Yeah, that is.
Keeping busy keeps you alive, so, and keeps you on top of the barrel. So if you keep your mind going, you don't get dementia when you get older and stuff. So that's what they say. Yeah.
I tell you.
Now, why am I here again?
Well, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys attending. And Caitlin, you've got a video that this is some of her marketing.
Okay.
Hey, you did good. Woo!
Awesome.
Some of her talents. Oh, I didn't know I needed the crew that I've got, but I thank God I've got the crew that I've got. So.
And thank you for sharing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, we're out of here, but definitely reach out to us. And one quick thing. Everybody put their contact information in the chat, or we were hoping that they would. Does everybody mind? What we're going to do is put together a directory.
It comes out the Friday after our meeting. It's kind of important that you put like what your category is, investors, your learning, realtor, that kind of stuff. So that way I can categorize it a little bit better. But
how do I put all that stuff in there?
There's a chat box.
Look at your bottom of your screen. You'll see the word chat. Click on that. That'll open up a screen on your right.
Well, Rick, could you get Tim's contact information?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get the contact information from you, Tim. I'll have Dennis get a hold of you. We'll get that info and then we'll get it added.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
Marquise,
And then Marquise, contact me. My info is on there because we may need you for doing some virtual tours as we're ready to go ahead and put our rentals out.
All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Looking forward to working with you guys.